Oh, scared me. We're now recording, everyone.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. That's okay.
And then why are they important? Why is this something that, we want to offer for the kids while they're doing, it's hard to wait. It's hard to have to sit in a cart. It's hard to see all of these, great things out there. Like you're in a store and there's toys and there's food and there's all the stuff that they want. So really thinking about the things that you can keep them engaged in and interested in while they're in their carts or holding your hand or whatever it is that you're, wanting them to do. And, frankly, some kids just need more of that support to help them to try to stay calm and engaged. Like Megan was talking about, some of those sensory needs. So headphones, things like that might be something that are, important in those moments too.
Jen, can we ask them a question real quick around that? Since we have a nice small group, we can kind of chat a little bit. Can you go back to that slide? Is that possible?
Yeah, it's coming back.
There it is. Perfect. Look at that. It's like magic. That was cool. I guess what I wanted to hear a little bit about is, if you don't mind, Megan, April, and Jackie, like, have you used reinforcement with your kids when you've taken them in public? What worked, what didn't work with it? Like, how did you use it, that type of thing, or have you not used reinforcement?
Oh yeah, I think that's how we've gotten so good about being at the store, is like, oh, you can pick out a toy. Like, he loves Target. So I'm kind of finally weaning him off of, like, we don't get a toy every time we go to Target now. Eating out, so I can eat, I've ordered him just an ice cream sundae, because I know he'll eat that and he'll entertain him so that I can eat food. But bringing toys for eating out, only going to the restaurants I know that there is something he'd like to eat, or being okay with not ordering anything with it for him. So but always trying to be like, oh, when we get done with this, we get to do something fun.
Okay. How about you, April? Thank you, April or Jackie. Have you guys tried any kind of reinforcement? Jackie,
we've tried a few things. We had some experience with her sister, which didn't go very well with her. Like, we've tried bringing toys with, bringing stuffed animals with, bringing the things that she likes the most at home, like her blanket and whatnot. And maybe getting something when we're at the store, or even like treats or food or snacks to distract her. But for her, she's really like, she loses interest in what she's got when she's out very quickly, because there's so much new things going around and there's so much happening that it's like really hard to keep her focused. Like, we've even tried like letting her watch the things that she likes to watch on like one of our phones, or even playing like a baby game on the phone, but it's like it only holds her attention for maybe 3 minutes or so, and then she's like, on to what else can I have, what else can I touch.
Okay. And how about you, April? Although you look like you have a child there. Was that Uriah?
Or Thora. They're both.
Oh, Thora. They're both there.
So yeah, Uriah likes the little balls. So like, little balls or little squishies. Those have definitely been used. He's really into games on their phones. We're kind of guilty of using that when we're out in public, because he really gets just zoned out into that.
Mm-hmm.
But we do use reinforcers.
So the thing up, and there's Megan. Megan says, Ollie helps to, he helps to put together the grocery list. Well, that's really great that he's able to do that. And you use iPads and phones. Yeah, a lot of people do. I think it's our survival, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the things, and especially if it's limited, you know, you really are, it's a great time to pull them out because you can get so much engagement and calm.
So one thing that I think about, and then we'll go to the next slide, is so when I think of motivation and reinforcers, I think of what am I wanting to reinforce? So it could be that the iPads, it could be, I'm not saying for sure because I haven't been there with you, but it could be that the iPads are more what I would be calling like a prevention strategy. So they're having it so they don't start running down the stores, you know, aisles, or screaming in the restaurant or something like that there. And think of reinforcement also as we go through this as what can be a holdout that they could have if they do if you're going to teach a new skill within an outing, right? So whether it's Ollie learning even just how to tolerate being around other people in a busy restaurant, or maybe it's Uriah not running off in a store. If we're teaching a new skill like that, what can be the holdout to reinforce? So as we go through this, just know that we're going to think of reinforcers also to reinforce the skills we're teaching. So keep that in the back of your mind. Jen, do you want me to go or you? However it works next.
Go right ahead. Let's see if I can get to move forward for us.
Okay, so this one here is the next slide. This is, yeah, oh, you're doing so good. We are doing this thing where we're popping them in, and so Jen and I are learning a new skill in this process. Very cool. So one thing that I like parents to think about are who are players in your community that that your child has to learn how to cooperate with. So if you're going to a park and there really isn't like a regular ongoing person there, then that it's going to be harder. But if you're going to work on a routine, like say in a store or a restaurant, I encourage you to think about, like, is there someone that you can not become their best friend, but get to know? Like if you had a waitress that worked really well with your child in the restaurant, like find out their name and like, do you always work on Thursday or do you work on Tuesday too? Like, so you can go back and kind of form these relationships. I'm not kidding. I have a coworker who's a friend here at EC Cares, and she told me once, now her son is older now. He's probably in either upper middle school or beginning high school. But she said, Florine, we go to Albertsons, that's this grocery store near their house. And she said, I have made sure that we go to the same line every time if there's a certain person there. So they actually shop at a particular time of day when someone that they kind of, I don't know if the word trust is too strong, but they're starting to form a relationship with, and so that they know their child. And she said, my goal is, maybe he'll be bagging groceries here when he graduates from high school. Like they will know him, they will know his humor, they will know his issues, but I want some key people in this store to know him. So that's what this is about. That's what the slide is about, is start thinking about who might be key players in your child's life at places you frequent. So let's zip in some of those other, so a grocery store, doctor's office. Who would you reach out to, like at a doctor's office or dentist office? Who do you think is going to be your best friend? Really? I mean, is it going to be the dentist? Or do you think it's that receptionist? Restaurants. Jackie just put something in the chat, so I'm going to open it up. Oh, so I'm going to go back. Jackie said that they also, she used the word force, but encourage her child to stay in the cart, which she loathes. Sometimes that's the thing she's getting the treat for. That is the concept, Jackie, that I was going for. So if she stays in the cart, which is going to be hard for her, that she gets a treat because she stayed in the cart. That is a really good use of reinforcement. If your goal is to teach her to stay in the cart, then that's how you would use the reinforcement. And she said another thing she wrote is, I had people do that with me when I was a cashier. Oh, good. I want you to share a little bit about that. It was pretty cute watching kids grow, but I've only done it with people I know from past jobs when I'm out myself. So you had that happen to you, Jackie? Like people would come through your line over and over again. Do you mind sharing a little bit about that?
Yeah, just one family that used to come through and they were like super cute. There was like a little girl and her little brother, and they would come through and they would tell you about like what they did in school and what they were doing this week, and if they had plans. Like they'd be like, we're going camping and we're so excited. And eventually they ended up moving back east with some family and stuff, but it was super cute. Like they like waited to try to find me again before they left because they wanted to say bye. I was like, oh, you guys are so cute.
Oh,
Well, it is very cute, but it also means that you were an important person to that child and to that family, and that you were able to somehow form a relationship. And that's what this slide's about. So good for you for being on the other end of it, because it really is very important.
Yeah, it's weird too, because like when it's reversed, I'm like super awkward when I'm out in public. So like I've worked at a lot of places and their dad has worked at a lot of places. So we know a lot of people randomly in retail all over the place.
Uh-huh.
So we'll do that with people we know, but it's always like super weird when it's people we don't know because I'm super awkward.
Yeah, and I agree, it can be very awkward. So you don't want the employee that's not going to stay there, or like the high
Right.
school, might be a high school kid, but the high school kid might move on right after he graduates or she graduates from high school. So I encourage some families to even introduce themselves like to the store manager. Who's the store manager on a quiet day? So Tuesday I'm going to go, and who's the store manager? So they know my son, they know if he runs or screams or is getting in trouble, grabbing things off of shelves. Like they know who he is. You've shared a tiny bit about them so that it's not going to be a problem. So getting to know people can be very helpful. Haircuts. Oh my gosh. Have any of you gone out for haircuts yet? Have any of you done that yet? That's really hard on kids.
Not for my second yet, but the first one went real bad.
Okay. I'm curious, Megan, if you have with your child, with Ollie, has Ollie had a haircut yet?
She says it's the worst.
Yeah,
It is. It's really hard.
He's had several. He now goes with my partner and we call it boys time. And they go to the same hairdresser.
That's exactly what I'm talking about here. You got it.
And we go like every 6 weeks, and it hasn't been that we use no clippers, and it's getting better and better. The haircuts look better and better also because she's able to like do it more, but he still has to sit on my partner's lap. He still doesn't like his hair getting sprayed wet. So thankfully we've found a hairdresser who just works well with him and kind of meets him where he's at. But it is hard.
It really is. And if you know someone who's gold like that, I call that gold, like they work with you and they work with your son, people would like to know who that is. So it's very hard to go out, but you've gone back, you've done a few things well there. You went back, you said every 6 weeks. So there's consistency. He always goes with your partner. He always sits on the lap. So those little things make a routine. So each time you go and it's with the same person, it's going to be less and less stressful. If you were changing a person every time, you'd be starting over every single time. So you're doing some good things there. And with that in mind, when they I have found many kids don't like their hair cut wet, so I usually ask them to cut it dry. I don't know how that person will feel about it. The other thing I do is I stand behind the kids or to the side and I catch the hair being cut so they don't see it fall on that cape, because that's what kind of freaks them out is they see this hair all over. So I catch it and I throw it behind me. So they never see it like on the floor in front of them or on their cape. And that it sounds odd, but it really helps. Something to think about trying. Jen, want to flip? Are there, I think there's more.
Yes, sorry.
Church. No, that's okay. Church. And birthday parties. Do your kids like birthday parties? I'm just curious. A lot of kids don't like birthday parties.
I know this was one thing April was talking about was the family gatherings and birthday parties, I think have been tricky in the past.
Yeah. They can be. This was just, yeah, an example. Grocery store, Walmart, getting to know your grocery clerk, the bagger. So can you guess why we wrote security staff on there, you guys? Can anyone take a guess at why we put that in there?
In case they get lost for the Amber Alert.
In case they get lost, yeah, in case they get lost. Any other reasons you can think of?
Sometimes behavior can look really hard to other people in the store.
Absolutely. I have had a number of phone calls. Again, most of the children I work with either have autism or behaviors, and parents. I'm not surprised when parents call me and say that they called security or the police showed up or they wanted to report them to DHS or whatever because of the kids having a meltdown. And it's often either in the toy aisle, the stuffy aisle, like where all the stuffed animals are, or at checkout. And kids can really lose it. And, parents try, I think, really hard to say things like, my child, has autism or has sensory issues or things like that, but other people don't always understand. So that's why I like telling store managers and security staff. I don't mean every visit I go, like a parent goes in, but if you tell the store manager about your kid and let them know they may have some meltdowns, they're going to respond very differently than if you don't. I mean, they just do. So. And Jackie said, that her daughter did well at a birthday party she went to. I think because the game area had, they had blinky buttons, huh?
Does always get them.
Yeah, and you could see that happening with her in the store. It does happen, unfortunately. It really does. So, okay, you're up this time, Jen.
All right. So again, just really establishing the relationships with those community supporters. And we've kind of already gone over this, like why is it important to develop those relationships we just talked about, so that other people know, they have that understanding of your child and the communication, their behavior needs. This obviously, if you have that relationship, if there's an understanding, it can help that trip be more smooth for both you and your child. It gives your child some of those tools so that they can be successful, which feels really nice when you can all, party and have a good time at one of these events. And it encourages you to want to do it again, because that's also important. Like Florian was saying, that consistency really, it can be really hard and it doesn't always make you want to go and do that, right? It's stressful, it's a lot, it's, there's so much on all of you. So it really helps you to want to do it again, which helps obviously it's going to help everything to really just get that consistency. Anything else you want to say on that? Sorry.
I don't have anything else on that page.
Okay.
So Jen, the next two pages that kind of go together, that kind of goes with what you were just saying. Do you want to do it or do you want me to? Makes no difference to me.
Go for it.
Okay, so with this one here, we have been talking a little bit about our experiences, and we're going to list out some of the things that I have, Jen and I have heard from other families about things that have worked or not worked. So let's go ahead and bullet point them in.
All right.
So finding out from other people, like, who do you think might be interested in working with your child? Like, that was when I said Megan, I think it was Megan, I said, boy, they're all going to want to know, like, who your hairdresser is, or, the barber is. It's because people spread word, like if there's a good place, a good person that you can have your child relate to, then people want to know that. So, and do ask your child's teachers, ask their doctor, they may know. This is something that people don't often think about doing, but particularly like doctor's offices, or if they're going to the dentist the first time, call them and ask for some time to learn about what the process is going to be, what's going to be happening. And sometimes the receptionist isn't that person, and they might refer you to somebody else. And I actually, and this was for haircuts, actually, I actually went to a couple places with a parent. This was a few years ago, just to, like, pre-pandemic, just to even talk to them to see, like, is this going to be workable for their child? Because it wasn't like a pediatric place. And so they had, like loud rock, and it was like rock and roll music in the background, kind of like to keep the energy up. And they're like, this kid was not going to tolerate that. Could they turn the music down? Things like that. So you can make appointments. You can stop by, talk to them, get more information. And this here, I wrote down autism, but it could be any developmental delay, right? So at whatever level you're comfortable with, if you're looking to form a relationship with them, then sharing just a little bit about your child's medical condition, or maybe their communication level, those things like that will really take you far, especially if they're a child who may have a meltdown in public. It really helps them to have a better understanding. Again, as I mentioned, finding out what the routine is, just knowing what the routine is takes, then when you're prepared yourself. And so some kids, and I don't know all of your children, I do happen to know Uriah, but some kids respond really well to visuals. Maybe they might have some social stories or some visuals that give them a choice of something to hold on to while they're at the store, or maybe they have a visual about, like, I don't know, Megan, you said your son helps make the food list for grocery shopping. So, like, I don't know if those are pictures or words or whatever, but the thought here is visuals can, if your child uses visuals, they can really help decrease the child's anxiety about what's going to happen and what order. So sometimes even having like a little schedule about going to the restaurant, we're going to sit down, we're gonna order food, mom's gonna eat this, you're gonna have your ice cream, and then after that you get, the iPad to play with, or whatever little schedule it is for the grocery store, for the doctor's office. But those things can be very, very helpful. I saw someone wrote in the chat, let me open it.
Jackie did. She said sometimes she makes little visual cards for what tasks they're going to do.
Oh,
So
that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Is that helpful for your daughter then, Jackie? I'm assuming it is.
Sometimes.
Sometimes. Does your daughter respond well to visuals? Like, does she understand what they mean?
She gets like the gist of what we're trying to show her. But whether or not she decides to agree with it when it happens, it's like a whole nother thing.
Got it. So she might have a different thought of how it should be playing out.
Yeah, she's like, no, I'd rather not do that. I'd rather do this. And then it's usually just some crazy thing that we can't do.
Yeah. But if it is something that can be helpful, it can really decrease kids' anxiety. For some kids, who really have like like are not as flexible in their thinking and really just want to do it one way. Sometimes visuals can make them more upset because if it's not that, if they have to wait, like to get the iPad and they don't want to wait, that can cause a problem for them. So you have to kind of know your kid and how they're going to respond to them.
Yeah, she's very let's do everything my way when I want it.
Well, in the classrooms, often we're using these, like Florian was just talking about, those little mini schedules. So like we have during, let's just say, our circle routine, it's very laid out. We're going to look at a book. We're going to sing the weather song. We're going to, do a movement activity. And the kids can take the visuals and put them in the all done pocket. So it's really, they're watching each step. As soon as it's done, it's all done, and then they can go on to that next thing. And it just helps to kind of keep them a little bit more, just a little more calm and more like aware of what's going on, and they can pay more attention to that. So it can be also that consistency of it being used at school for a lot of your kids. I know with EEP, for sure. And then, you're using it, it's just that consistency too. They already have learned it, which is nice. And you can pull it into other routines in the throughout the days.
Jackie, is your daughter at the parent toddler class with Kat? Is that where she's at?
Yeah.
Okay, so she's in the parent toddler. Okay.
Yeah, when we go out and about, the out and about visuals aren't always super helpful, but we do have like bath time ones that are usually pretty good.
Good.
She likes that one, but
and as she gets older, she'll understand them more. So
yeah.
And one thing, I think we'll talk about this more later, but one thing about visuals is if you have a visual you'd like to have for your child in the community, just talk to your service coordinator or teacher. So like Jackie, you would talk to Kat, and April, you could talk to me or Jen or Sierra, and Megan, whoever the teacher is there could help you make things as well. I don't know if you know
Or
that.
Misty.
Yeah. Yeah, or is it Misty is the service coordinator there? Okay. And is there another one on this? Yep. Oh, this is really, so one thing about waiting, as you know, kids, preschoolers in general and toddlers just don't wait. And if your child has a delay or is a little busy, they're really not going to want to wait. The best times I have found for making appointments, like if you're going to a doctor or a dentist or something, is either first appointment in the morning or right after lunch. Those are the two that seem to work best because the doctors are more on time then. But you can ask the receptionist, like, or tell them, like, we won't be able to wait. So what is the best time of day to schedule with the person? And that could be true for haircuts or other things as well. Do you want me to keep going with this page, Jen?
Sure.
Okay. Again, when you talk, we already talked about this, but when you're talking to your community players, letting them know how your child, not only what they use for language, like if they're using sentences or just pictures or 1 to 3 words, like children all vary. So let them know that, but also how they process and understand language, because some children need very clear language and some people you can be like use very abstract language. And so letting them know how much your child understands might also help. Again, extra. So I have to tell you, I've never found a doctor who will allow extra time. So if you find someone, let us know. I've never really done that, but I have had people find or be allowed extra time for things like haircuts, or if they're going, I'm trying to think where else I've had extra time. I think it's only haircuts. Grocery stores don't, restaurants usually you don't need more time. Usually you want to be done and then be able to leave. But doctors are not usually very kind because they bill by their minutes, right? So I shouldn't say they're not kind. I just think they bill by their minute and they have like other appointments. So they try to keep on schedule more. And, say thank you, right? I mean, that's really, there's so much more. People respond much more positively to you and your child if you say thank you. And I know that sounds silly, but you'd be surprised. Sometimes myself included, sometimes we forget to say thank you.
I mean, it can be a busy time trying to go out,
Yeah.
and do all of this. So sometimes you just forget.
And then just keeping, let parents know if you find certain people, certain players or dentists or restaurants that are better, let other people know so people kind of can be aware of it. Otherwise, they have to start from the bottom also. Yeah. And then Jen, you want to do the temperament page?
Sure. So really just, you know your kids better than anybody. Know their temperament. What are their strengths? Oh, Jackie just said that they like Eugene Kids Dentists on Barger.
Oh, okay.
Good to know. I'll write that one down. It's always nice to know from others. They're pretty patient and have movies in the ceiling. I think that I have a family that goes here and has also said nice things about it. Okay. So just knowing their strengths, what can they do? Like, is their communication good? Can they wait? Like some kids are able to wait with fidgets. So what you want to play off of what their strengths are. And then also what are their boundaries? Like what can they handle if it's too bright or it's too loud and you know that you're going to go into this place, you might want to look around for a different store that's not as bright or not as loud, or like Florian was talking about those the times of the day, things like that, really kind of considering all of that. And then your child's personality, what their needs are. Do they need, well, I just kind of said those quieter times, or do they need a weighted blanket to put on them while they're walking or while they're sitting in the cart, just to kind of keep their bodies a little bit calmer. Oh, sorry, I'm clicking, and it doesn't want to go, and then it goes too quick.
It goes too fast.
I figure out which one to go. Did you want to add anything else, Lorraine?
I didn't, but I did want to ask the three of you. So I keep a dental list for EC Cares. In fact, someone just asked recently and I don't think I have the Eugene Kids Dentist on Barger. So is there a particular dentist at the Eugene Kids Dentist on Barger, Jackie, or is it the whole practice is pretty good?
The whole practice is pretty good. My eldest has a hypersensitivity disorder. So she used to have like panic attacks and everything else when we used to go there and with her. And they've always been like pretty patient. Like they have like a small little room that's away from the others that they can wait in and do their stuff in if they need to.
Nice.
And I don't remember what his name is. There's one that's like extra nice, but I don't remember what his name is. I just remember, I think it's like, I want to say Dave or whatever, but I know that's not right. I know that he's like the Asian dude that works there, but he's like super nice. He's seen my eldest a few times. My youngest hasn't actually gotten in there yet, but she's like the opposite. She's got a hyposensitivity disorder instead of a hypersensitivity disorder.
Okay. And then I think it was Megan, you said Oregon Kids Dentist. Where's that located?
That's Crescent Village, so off of Crescent.
Okay.
Is that what Dr. Dunn?
No, that's Dr. Lefner.
Lefner?
Yeah, I think it's Leftner. Okay. She's been really great. They take great notes. They kind of just do what Ollie can handle. so like there's a note that says no fluoride because a year ago he threw up all over me and himself after the fluoride. And so they just brush his teeth with water because he won't use toothpaste. And they take their time to even get to the point where they can brush. He had dental surgery through them, and she's like, let's do that at the surgical center. That way he doesn't, get a bad association with the office. And we really worked with the surgical center and it was so smooth. We worked with the anesthesiologist to make it really smooth. So we have just been so lucky there, and the whole staff is super understanding, and they have therapy dogs there often.
Oh, they have therapy dogs there. Okay. Yeah,
Yes.
so dentists, we are lucky in this community. We have a number of dentists that are very good with children. And I would say that it's most of them, not all, but most of them have that extra room that you were describing, Jackie. So if kids need to either have a separate room for their own sensory overload or just because it's too stressful to be around. But some of them, like Dr. Dunn, he has a whole fish tank like in an oval around the room. It's just incredible. And a lot of them now have like iPads or movies and things like that. So check them out. They're pretty good. And I'm going to probably add these two to my resource list for staff. So that'll be really appreciated. Thank you for sharing that. I really do appreciate it. And I'm not going to tell you who the dentist was, but I have to share a funny story. I hope you guys think this is funny. I just thought it was so cute. So I had a mom with triplets with autism. This was many years ago. And she and I went to the dentist together, and we scheduled all three kids at the same time, and they had them in different chairs, and the appointment went really smoothly. Like it went really, really well. And so we left, and I'm like, well, that went really good. Like, I'm glad, like, this will be good when you sign up for their 6-month checkup. And she's like, oh no, Florine. She said, I'm going to make 3 separate appointments. He was eye candy, and my kids did so well there. I'm going back 3 times. I just thought it was cute. But that's part of it, right? Is she was really comfortable that her kids were really comfortable there. And so now she felt like she didn't need to take me, and she could go on her own with each kid individually, and good for her. And she liked how the dentist looked. I just thought it was cute. So
love her.
Okay, so is it my turn?
Sure.
It is. Okay, so steps in the community experience. So this is the part where I'm gonna I'm just looking, Jen, I'm gonna do 2 pages, okay? 2 slides. So this is a part that I don't want to say I want you to pay attention to, but it's probably going to be a little different than what we've talked about so far. So I'm a firm believer in really knowing on what kids are able to do, like at their level, meeting them at their level. And I also like to break things into steps. So for instance, if you were to tell me that your child does really well in a grocery store for 5 minutes and then they lose it, but you keep going back, right? Because you have a long list. And so, you need to do a half-hour grocery shopping. So every time you go, it's a negative experience. That's not really teaching the child. It's not that you're not teaching them anything, but it's really not improving quickly for the child. So I like to break things into smaller steps. And if you could, I think the next bullet, maybe, Jen, I'm just looking. Yeah. So really knowing when you think of a routine, so pick a routine in the community, a spot you want to go to, park, dentist, restaurant. I mean, it could be anything that's important to you, but really assess in your own head, like what your child does well in that routine and what's hard. And then I usually encourage parents just to pick 1 or 2 parts of the routine to focus on. I'm going to get a drink of water, excuse me. So instead of working on the full routine all at once, just pick a part of it. so that if you can focus on that and the child can have success, then you can build, right? You can add more time to the routine. You could pick a harder step until they're more independent. But to tackle a whole routine in the community all at once, you guys, it's really hard. So that's why I like to break them down. And so I would, in your mind, you can, I'm going to show you an example here in a second, but in your mind, break down the experience and list out the steps. And again, you're going to know what steps are easy for your child, which are really, really hard steps, and which ones maybe they could learn more quickly. So let's go to the next slide and just list them all out, Jen. Just flip them all the way through. So this was, so we call it task analyzing, but you can just call it listing out the steps. So this is potentially steps for going to the doctor's office. As you can see, there's quite a few. I didn't count them, but I'm going to estimate it maybe a dozen. I'm going to estimate, but you've got to drive there, right? You've got to get out of the car and walk to the door. You need to talk to the receptionist and make sure that you know that you're there. And then you have to sit and wait, right? So there, or maybe there's a playroom or some toys, but there's that wait. That's going to be a really hard part. Maybe you need to go to the restroom, or the child has a poopy diaper and you need to go change the diaper. Then when I say respond when the name is called, by the receptionist and nurse, that means if the child's playing with something, they have to stop. So you're going to have to interrupt them, right? Which could cause a problem, to go into the nurse's, the room, the examining room with the nurse. Then you've got to take shoes off, you get weighed, you stand on a scale. You go to the exam room, maybe you take off, in this situation, they might take off all their clothes except their underwear or diaper. They have to sit on the table. Sometimes nurses want to take blood pressure, temperature, pulse. I have a kid I work with, really a high, what I would say a high level verbal child, has very long utterances. And he went once to a doctor and they took his blood pressure. And they've not been able to get him into any doctor since. So you got to think about all these different pieces and what's hard. Maybe the child will look at some books while the doctor's talking to you. The doctor comes in. Oh, sorry, you're looking at books before the nurse came in, then you're looking at books. Now the doctor's coming in and greeting, and they're looking at eyes and nose and your lungs and your back, and they're thumping your tummy, and they have a stethoscope, and they're putting that little reflex thing on the knee to see if the knee, there's all these, talk about sensory overload, right? And then the doctor wants to talk to mom, the kid has to get dressed, and then they get to go to the front office to walk out to go to the car. There are so many steps there, you guys. So that's what I want you to think about is, if you're thinking of a routine to work on, think of all the little steps. What can your child do? What can't your child do yet? And don't pick the hardest parts to start with. Pick a step or two that'll be your focus, and that'll be easy for them to achieve, because then they'll get reinforced. Remember, there's going to be some reinforcement. We talked about that. And you will feel better about the experience if you're only focusing on taking the shoes off and standing on the scale. If that's all you're focusing on, and the child does well, they get a reinforcement and you feel motivated to go back another time. So this is an example. I'm just curious, have any of you thought about all the different steps to these routines before, or is this the first time you've really had someone talk about that? Does anyone want to share about that? It looks like Megan.
Yeah, I try and break down steps, but I haven't done it this much. But we definitely talk about everything that's going to happen. Not maybe like, we read books while we're waiting, but, the doctor's going to check this and this and this. But I think this could be helpful, as the dentist is hard for us and we're going on Wednesday, to break it down even further.
Yeah, and break it down, and then again, really just focus on some, you don't, when you're building skills, like even the classroom, we don't pick well, if there's having dangerous behaviors, we do work with that. I don't want you to think we would ignore things that are unsafe, but we don't work on, like, if a child's learning how to play appropriately with toys and not spin the wheels on a toy, we're not going to jump to imaginary play. Right? We're going to meet them where they're at and think about what are some things. Oh, he likes to spin the wheels on the toy. Maybe we could work on balls or a ball maze or a car, or like a garage where the car comes down a track and that kind of has a zigzag spinning. So we build in very small steps, and that's kind of what I'm asking you to think about here. April or Jackie, do you have any thoughts on breaking down a routine into steps or not? And you don't have to share if you don't want to.
Jackie wrote in the
Okay,
chat,
yeah.
that Riley has had to do blood draws and pokes for a few months, and knows how to rip her veins, making it harder. So it's soured some of her views on the doctors. But her last doctor experience, she had nursemaid's elbow. It went well, and she loved him and wanted to hang out after he fixed her up. So it's been a bit of a roller coaster. But that is, yeah, it's nice that she's gotten over that a little bit and able to go in and have a good experience.
Yeah, and what did the doctor do, Jackie, that was different? Was it just because of how the vein, like accessing the veins was hard, or was it just a whole different kind of medical experience?
Well, she doesn't like it at all when she's getting any kind of blood draw or prick or anything. But she has anemia issues that she got from me. So they have to keep checking her regularly to make sure that her iron levels are right. So she hates that. And she knows how to flex her arm in just the right way to send her vein launching across her arm.
Oh,
which makes it hard for the phlebotomist.
Yeah.
But the last thing, we ended up in the ER because I thought that she hurt herself somehow. Turned out she was climbing down off of her bed off of the big bed using her crib. And instead of stepping down like she normally does, she just kind of swung herself off, which pulled the band that goes around her elbow and gave her nursemaids. And we didn't know that until after we got in there. And we were going to have like x-rays done and everything like that, because I was like, I don't know what's wrong, but she's holding her arm and she doesn't usually, she's got a hyposensitivity, so she doesn't usually freak out when she gets hurt, but she's freaking out. And I was like, so something's definitely wrong. And the doctor came in. He didn't even take us to the back. He just came up to the front, and he was like, came over and talked to her and like was like messing with her arm and stuff. And at first she was like, oh, don't touch me. And then he fixed it in like just a few seconds. And at first she didn't know that it was fixed. But then after she realized that her arm didn't hurt anymore, she was so happy.
Oh, that's wonderful. So I'm going to go back to the blood draws. I have two thoughts. I don't know if you want to write this down. All three of you are welcome to write it down, but Autism Speaks. I know that they're a little controversial. Some parents don't like them politically. Like I believe their board of directors doesn't have any individual with autism on it. There's things that sometimes people don't like, but one of the things that Autism Speaks does very, very well is if you go to their website, and they'll either call it like parent support or family resources or something like that, or you can even use their search bar and type in blood draw toolkit. They have about 40 different what they call toolkits, and their toolkits are phenomenal. They're really, really good. But there's one for blood draws, and it has a lot of ideas on how to make the experience better for your child. And it is, they're written for individuals with autism, and I don't know that Riley has autism or not, but I am just saying in general, they're really, really good toolkits. I'm sure that there could be something in there that would be helpful for you, particularly if she's going to need this ongoing. And again, taking it back to this here is thinking about what one step could you work on next time? Because she's going to go regularly for blood draws. As you think about the whole routine, what's something that you can focus on? We'll talk about some prevention strategies and how to create some prevention strategies from her getting so upset. And then how can you reinforce her for doing something well so that it's not a problem? So think about that, and then also look up Autism Speaks. And if again, you can just search for toolkits, but they do have one specifically about blood draws. So they're good. They're really good.
Yeah, it's been rough. I'll definitely look that up, see if they got something that could help. What I did was after we were done, like with the last one that was an actual full-on blood draw and everything. After we were done, like he gave her a sticker and she was like, "Oh yeah, that's nice." And then we got to the car and I was like, "Here, have this giant cookie." And she was like, "Oh, all right."
Yeah, so you might need to bring the cookie with you so she gets it sooner. So,
Right.
so Jen, if you do the next page, I'll look up the blood draw toolkits and we can put it inside the
I think that I
chat.
have added somewhere towards the end, some of the other Autism Speaks, but I can't remember for sure if we put them in it. So
Okay,
maybe
okay. Well, you do the next slide. I'll take a look.
All right.
Oh, we did do it.
Okay. So the next one is developing a communication system. How will your child understand? So if your kiddo, you know, if receptively, if they can understand you sharing these steps verbally and talking through them, again, like there's a lot of different steps, a lot of things that you might want to work on. So what is the best way to really give them this information? Is it visuals? Is it, you know, the spoken verbal words? Objects. Sometimes kids benefit from having an actual object that relates to whatever it is that you're doing. Drawings, written words. Some children, you know, are reading, and so they prefer to. I've had kids that I've used whiteboards and just wrote down what we're doing so that they can read it and then move on. Sign language. iPads are great. Some other visuals we use in the classroom, mini schedules and first then boards. We use calendars a lot to really let kids know when and you know, what's happening when. Social stories, those are also great ways to really get that information across to the kids. And nowadays we have, you know, social stories in video form. So, you know, that's also a really nice way to kind of get the kids' attention. They like those a lot better sometimes. All right, and then the next part is possible prevention strategies. So this one is, we have an example again, I think, about going to a store, waiting, and how to teach sitting down and waiting. Florine, do you want to go on to this one? You're muted.
Yeah, sorry, I coughed, so I was was muting. I was wondering, actually, Jen, you do really good. Why don't you can say no. I'm thinking it'd be great for you to do the next 3 pages because they're all prevention strategies and it's really a strength area for you. And then I'll do the slide after that. Does that work okay?
Yeah.
Okay, and if you want me to jump in, I can.
No, I'm good. Thank you. So, you know, first then is a great, sometimes people are using visuals to really show that. Sometimes it's just the way that we, you know, our verbal language. You can just say, first, we're going to sit and wait, and then we're going to get a cookie, and then we're going to walk down the hall. Or first, we're going to sit, and then, you know, we're going to get a book, and we're going to walk down, or a fidget, whatever it might be that that your kid really likes. I'm frozen again. Oh, there we go. And this is what a first then board looks like, the visual first then boards. And like I said,
No, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
oh, it's okay. Sometimes these can be the picture, sometimes it can be words, you know, whatever it is first and then that you're going to be doing. Did you want to say something about that, Florian?
I did. So we're going to go into some visuals here. And if any of you, Megan, Jackie, or April, if there's anything you want us to get you, if you write it in the chat, I'll make a list while Jen's talking of things that you might want, and then we can get them to your classroom teacher. So if you want some first then boards, or like you'll see, Jen's going to go through a few different things. So if you see anything, let me know in the chat.
And again, these are things that are pretty consistently used in the classrooms. So there's something that most likely your kids have seen if they're not using them, you know, pretty consistently in the classrooms already. Mini schedules, they come in a lot of different ways. These are some examples. This one right here has little dividers, so they can all be closed and you can open up one at a time if you want, or you can have them all open and then close one at a time as the activity's done. This one down here on the bottom is the one I was talking about. We use these often at school for like circles. So this is first we play. It looks like then we had some sensory break, and maybe we checked a schedule. I'm not sure what that is. And then we went to circle. And as each step was done, it would go in the all done pocket. This is one that I've seen people use, like families have created. It's one of those like pencil bags that zips and unzips so you can stick things inside of it. And it's the same idea, just a little picture schedule of different steps of a routine. Social stories, like I said, they're really nice. And there are so many social stories that you can find online. We make them often. And so if there's something specific you're looking for around a specific routine, you can also check in with us and we can get it. This one's about, I may have to wait in the waiting room, and when my name is called, I'll go into the dentist's office. So again, it's laying out each step of the routine, but in a fun book format that kids really like. A lot of kids really like. And then let's see. So these are some of those sensory supports that might be needed. You know, it can get loud. Kids like to have headphones to block out the noise. Tablets, iPads, iPhones, books, maybe like you just mentioned the cookies, you know, maybe it's just a bag of even goldfish crackers that kids like to help to keep them waiting, because that's so hard. A bag of their favorite toys, maybe it's this is a little water wow or a stuffy or some bubbles that they can use while they're waiting. Maybe it's balls, maybe it's squishy fidgets. Here's some different fidgets that we often use in the classroom. So these are like those little squishy snakes. There's spinners and cubes that they can push all the buttons. Some kids really, well, I know you said Ollie doesn't like smells, but if there's anything that maybe he does like to smell, a flower or a scent that they like that helps to calm them.
Jen, I'm going to interrupt right there for Ollie. Sorry. I was curious, Megan, have you found anything that can block the smells? I mean, I'm just curious if you have.
So here's the funny thing is he has to smell. Like during COVID, he wouldn't wear a mask because then he couldn't smell. So it is just getting him used to it. We were at a point probably almost 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half ago. I couldn't eat in the same room as him. I couldn't drink coffee in the same room.
Wow.
I couldn't like be near him for about 2 hours after I drank coffee. I can't brush my teeth and then be near him. So it is just like slowly introducing it. Now, for the most part, can be in the same room with him, but he will definitely tell us if he doesn't like something. But he wants to smell, even if it's horrible.
So is there a smell he likes?
It depends on the day. I wouldn't say there's something that he is super drawn to. We've kind of worked a little bit with Molly, the OT therapist at EC Cares. We've been working with Molly for a while now. So sometimes lavender, it's very random. It's very random. I wish there was like something that would
So what,
help us.
if you don't mind my interrupting, this is a little different, but it is about restaurants. And you said restaurants were hard because of the smells.
Yeah.
So this was like a number of years ago, but we made a smell box for a child. And so they were, you can go, there's a place, in fact, they now own a shop, and I'm sorry, I'm thinking of the name of the shop now, Mountain Rose Herbs. And they're down by Down to Earth, which is near the jail, Lane County Jail on Fifth Street in Eugene. Do you know where Down to Earth is?
Yes, I know where Mount Rose.
Yeah, so
is.
they
Yeah.
sell these teeny tiny little bottles, and you can put like essential oils in them. So what we
Oh,
did
okay.
is, so years ago, we made a bunch of little bottles for a kid, probably had, I don't know, 5 or 6 different scents, and we put some cotton in the jar and then some drops of the essential oils. But we had lavender. There was one essential oil that was called, I'm trying to think what it is. I actually used it for many years in classrooms because I found it calming to kids, but it was like a rescue. Anyway, there's these calming oils you can get that you can put on them. And then I carried them. I had parents carry it into restaurants, and they also brought them into grocery stores, like in a little case. It was like what I would say like a lunchbox case, but smaller. And then the child could be redirected from the smells in the grocery store or in the restaurant by smelling the smells that he liked. And because we had 5 or 6 different smells, he could choose the smells that he wanted to smell. Does that make sense? Like there was some control by the child of what he smelled. So that was helpful for that child.
I'll have to try that. Molly had made us some like little Easter eggs with cotton balls with essential oils on them. They've kind of lost their smell by now, but I'll definitely try and do those little bottles. That sounds like a great
Well, I
idea.
liked the bottles because you can get a cap so the smell stayed on the cotton, and you could also add more of the oil to it if you needed to.
Great.
And it was just a thought when you were talking about restaurant smells. I thought of that. So
That's a great idea. Thank you.
sorry, Jen, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, you're fine. All right.
And Jen, there is something in the chat from Jackie. My eldest used to put on a pressure vest before we went into crowds, grocery stores, and high stress situations, and also does calm down breaths and has a like therapy stuffy during her panic attacks. We made a calm down visual chart from techniques she learned in school, and she could pick the item or task to help her calm down in public. She still brings it to school. Wow, that's great. That's a really good idea. So pressure vests, we now have pressure vests, and we have, compression takes. We have different types.
Great. Yeah, a lot of kids really benefit from us. And sometimes it's the weighted, weighted blankets and weighted vests and weighted lap pads we have that can help too.
I was just thinking of Uriah, because Mom said he's busy, and as you know, he's busy because we know him. I'm wondering, have we tried like a compression tank with him or a pressure vest or anything? Do you know?
We have, because they're in the classroom, he has seen them on other kids and been shown some interest. And then when we presented it, he no longer had any interest. So he seems interested to, a certain degree, but then once you have it, like he doesn't really appear to want to have anything to do with it. I don't know if, April, if you've used any sort of pressured vests or weighted, anything like that at home.
I have used like a weighted blanket because he used to have nights where he would wake up and he doesn't like to have anything on him really. He like if he could, he would probably walk around without clothes on. So I don't think he really likes that too much.
Okay, yeah, it sounds like he doesn't. So
But
I
it's-
just thought of it because sometimes, like someone else just said, Jackie was saying, it can be calming for some kids.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you, April. He doesn't seem to be interested in it. He doesn't like even things, you know, like sometimes if there's a fidget or something like attached to a belt loop or attached to, you know, the seat on the Riften that he sits in or anything like that, he likes to kind of have the control over them, I think, sometimes. But he does like hugs when he wants a hug, you know, when he wants that input, he wants that sort of stuff. So that's, you know, it often kids that like hugs like to have those pressure vests, I guess is what I'm saying. And Jackie also just added that she's considered trying that with Riley, but hasn't gotten around to it yet, trying to locate sister's small vest. It's always hard to keep things. They always disappear.
And you could probably ask Kat to borrow one. We might be able to loan you one.
They do have a weighted blanket though, and that has been iffy. So
Okay.
yeah, I think sometimes that's it. Sometimes kids, you know, it might be helpful, but in the moment they don't want to try it. They don't, you know, they don't want it on them. There's so many other things happening, you know, that they're more bothered by it. All right, Laureen, you have?
Yeah, so I'm going to go through this next page or two pretty quickly because we have about 10 minutes left and I want to make sure we get to some of the resources. So go ahead and put all these up here for this one here. So the main thing that these are kind of like the main things we want to kind of relay to you is think of your routine. Think of breaking it into small steps and picking a step or two out of that to focus on. Know that it's going to take time and it's not going to always be easy. And starting with, again, either small, like fewer steps to focus on or a shortened trip, or even just visiting like a dentist office, but not going for the whole exam. All those little things will help. And bring your own prevention tools, that whether it be sensory or visuals, those type of things, because they aren't going to have them in those other places. You're going to need to have them. And while your child's in EC Cares, we can help by making those for you. So again, you can talk to your child's teacher or service coordinator for them. And then remember, think about how you're going to reinforce your child. If they're using an iPad as a prevention strategy in a grocery store and like kind of zoning out on that, then that's not necessarily reinforcing the good behavior. It's a prevention strategy, which is okay. I mean, that's fine to use it that way, but you still should have some kind of reinforcement because they did stay calm in the cart instead of running around the store, if that makes sense. You can go ahead and go to the next page. Yeah, and I'm probably not, so I guess I'd like to ask you guys if you want to go through behavior in a routine, or would you rather go over some of the resources we have? What do you three prefer? Because we do have some resources. I'm just looking that we wanted to share. I feel like the resources will be more helpful. Resources. Okay, so let's move to the resources. We can do this one here though too.
This one?
Yeah, this is fine for now. I'll finish with this one before we go to resources. So having your child become in a way desensitized, like to environments being overwhelming or overstimulating, can also vary based on the kid's stress level, anxiety level, or like Uriah's mom was saying, he gets pretty busy in parks and in family events. So the good news is he's not stressed or anxious in those settings, but it's almost like the opposite, how to help him stay calm and focused a little bit. But be sure to practice. If you're practicing a place in the community, I would say at least once every 1 to 2 months, like for haircuts or going to a dentist or something, or the blood draw, that type of thing. If it's going to a park or going to a grocery store or to a restaurant, I would potentially even do them more frequently, like maybe weekly practicing. And again, we just want to make sure we're not here to stress the kid out, right? That's not the goal. So making sure that our expectations aren't too high for the children is important too. And it's always ending on a positive note means they're going to learn something from it, even if it's just a part of the routine. That's okay. Okay, so Jen, let's go through some resources. Do you want to start with this page or do you want me to?
Go right ahead.
Okay, so for the visuals, headphones, and I'll just stick to those two. So visuals and headphones, those are things we can help you with. Also things like we were talking about pressure tanks, or if you wanted a weighted lap pad or a weighted blanket, those type of things like that. We can help you with some sensory tools, and it doesn't have to be an OT. You can, again, talk to the teacher, service coordinator. Visuals, definitely the teacher, service coordinator. Things like fidgets or like sunglasses, if things like glaring lights bother kids, those tend to come more from families, but your child's teachers may have some ideas and suggestions on what fidgets to try. Because believe me, if they're in a classroom setting, the teachers are trying fidgets. They're trying to figure out, what are good distractions and ways to calm the child. So another thought on this one here is parking permits. I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but a lot of parents have concerns in parking lots, like particularly on weekends or if you're shopping at busy times, because the children we work with often are not safe yet in parking lots, and they also don't like to hold hands. They want to run, and so you qualify for getting a disabled parking permit for your car if you would like, because of your child's delay. Because they have an IFSP with us, you can get a parking permit, and it could be something that you only get temporarily until your child learns how to follow those directions and how to be safe in parking lots. Or it may be long-term, but a lot of people don't know that, and it can really take a lot of stress. I mean, to start, just like to think about going to a star and then you're just starting in a stressful mode because of the parking lot. That's not very helpful to anybody. So that's why I often suggest this. If you can park closer and it's easier to get into the store, go for it.
I had the family say this was the most important thing. It just changed her entire life. 3 kids, and she said once she realized that was an option and got it, it has made every trip out in the community for them so much easier.
Oh, good. I'm so glad to hear that. That's very good. Yeah, so you do that through the motor vehicle department. And then Lane County Developmental Disabilities, I know that for families I work with, I usually encourage them applying for that. If your child has scores on our testing that is 70 or lower in 2 developmental areas, so a lot of kids we work with, that might be communication or social or adaptive, could be motor if a child has some motor issues, but they offer programs where you can get support workers for your child. And it doesn't mean that you're not home also with your child, but like if you wanted to go to a grocery store, or go to the park, your child can go with an extra adult. So it could be, and I'm just thinking of Uriah, April. So if you have a baby and then you have a toddler and then you have a preschooler, you could have an extra adult go with you to the park. And and they'll focus on Uriah, not that you can't be with them too, but like they're going to be there to help you be successful in those community events. And they can go to grocery stores with you, restaurants, all that kind of thing. And sometimes that just takes just having another set of hands. I mean, just can be a world of difference. So that is one of the services. Do you guys know, did we put a link into them? I'm not sure if we did. I'm just looking.
I'm not sure.
Yeah. Do you guys, Megan and Jackie, are you aware of Lane County DDS? I know that Uriah's mom knows a little bit about it.
Yeah, we just qualified in February
Good.
for March for DSP because we got the K plan. And then
Oh,
he
good.
qualified for disability through DDS maybe in January or February.
Good. So will you get some rest hours?
Yeah, he gets 70 something hours until he starts kindergarten, and then 58 hours a month once he starts kindergarten.
Okay, great. So it's super. Yeah. So I don't want to say use that person, but use that person.
Yes. Yes,
You-
I work from home 2 days a week, and so he's here a day and a half a week, and it's so handy because he can
Oh,
take Ollie
good.
to appointments and take him to do activities and be
Yes.
another person to help take him out into the community.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a great thing. Okay, next page or next item. So we were going to follow up, but it sounds like if you need us to follow up, just let us know in the chat area and we'll follow up with you. But I know that I know you, April, for Uriah, and Jackie Katz, my office mate. So if there's anything, she knows all these resources too, so she should be able to help you. And then Megan Misty, I think, would be a great contact for you as well. So these,
Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
These are different. So here's the Autism Speaks toolkits that Maureen was talking about is up here on the top. Do you want me to click on them?
Why don't you click on the Autism Toolkit one, and then the others I think will be self-explanatory.
Okay.
Is it going to open up?
Is it not showing it to you?
Didn't open.
I think it's because I'm not.
Well, let's do it this way because it's 7:30. Is that okay, Jen?
Yeah.
So on this page here, and then I think there's a couple more pages that we have. We have a couple more pages of websites and videos. And the main thing here is we can email this to you. We can, I'm going to check in with Nellie, our parent coordinator. Nellie, we have all their email addresses. Is that correct?
No, actually, if I'm going to put my email right here, right now. And if everyone wouldn't mind just shooting me a quick, it can even be blank with just parent chat or resources in the subject line. That's how I'll make sure I get everyone's contact information. Because I have contact information for, I think, 2 of the people here.
Well, I have Uriah's. Jen and I have Uriah's. Yeah, there we go. Thanks. Thanks, Nellie. Go ahead and perfect.
Yeah, just send me a blank and that way I can just make sure and double check that they're all there.
Okay, and then if you send them the PowerPoint, Nellie, then I guess what I'm saying to all 3 of you parents is that Nellie will send you the PowerPoint and then you can click on these. But the Autism Speaks has those toolkits. So
Yes.
they'll have going to the dentist, getting a blood draw, getting your hair cut. They have really good toolkits. So check those out. The social stories on Kid Mucate, sorry, Kid Mucate has a lot of different social stories and going out, in the community. And then there's a ton of YouTubes that you can type in YouTube, type in social story or going to the dentist or going to the park. And if you ever, even if your child does not have autism, if you add the word autism, you get 1,000 more options that come up. I don't know why, but if you add in the word autism, you get a lot more choices. Go ahead.
And there's a lot of your kids' favorite characters, like if Daniel Tiger or whoever their favorite character is, you can add that and often find things too.
Yeah. There is a Positive Solutions Family Routine Guide, and I will, Jen, I'm going to give you one. Actually, let me write this down. Sorry. So Megan, going back to you, I'm going to give it to Misty for you. there's a family routine guide, which is really good, and it has stuff about going out in the community.
And it
And
has little examples and, you know, kind of ideas for specific activities. So you can really tell, you know, whatever it is that you're wanting to work on, you can really get some great ideas out of it.
And then Jackie, for Riley, I'll give it to Kat to give you. And then I'll be at Ridgeview on Thursday, April. So I'll give you one for Uriah on Thursday.
And
Again,
then,
oh, go ahead, Jen.
sorry, I was just gonna say, the other thing, you know, like Florian just said, just go on your Google search, social story for autistic child about going to the store, and you can see a bunch of them pop up. So that's just another easy way to find something. And teachers pay teachers. You can, you have to create an account. You don't have to be a teacher. Lots of families use this, and there are a lot of free ones. If you go into here, right here, it says price ascending, and it starts out with all of the free ones, and you can type in, again, I typed in social story going to the store, and they pop up a bunch of different ones. Jackie says she loves Teachers Pay Teachers. I do too. It's been a great resource for the classroom, but a lot of families really like it too.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, we went over a few minutes. I'm so sorry, you guys. I'm hoping